is there a crisis going on at the southern border? And one time Joe Biden slipped up, used that term, but then Vice President Harris immediately came in and said it's not a border crisis, it's a climate crisis that's causing these issues. And they never want to use those terms. They never want to get stuck to the word crisis specifically. So we filed a FOIA. Now this FOIA was filed, if we put it up on the screen, I mean, it was shocking even this morning. We were going through this today when you look at when this was filed. April 7th, 2021, filed by the American Center for Law and Justice. So when we say we dedicate to these issues and we commit to these issues, this is a great example of that. So this is April 7th, 2021. And we're asking about Secretary Mayorkas, specifically his testimony that the migrant surges at the southern border are challenges, but not a crisis for the administration. And then we found out eventually by going to court. So this is, again, through a FOIA, then going to court to get them to actually respond. So it's DHS within U.S. Customs and Border Protection. The Migrant Crisis Team, which was sending daily reports to the administration. We know at least through 2022.
As many times when you get something out of a FOIA, a lot of times it offers more questions than answers. But what we know now is that the narrative of, maybe they're just incompetent on the border, not just lying to us. No, we know that's false. They were lying to the American people when it came to whether or not this was a crisis. So much so that the Migration Crisis Action Team continued to send daily reports well into 2022. So what we now need to go through is, this was a 420-page document production from DHS on this issue. We should be getting another document production this month. It's a monthly production, so we're going to keep looking. But the redactions there don't answer questions like, how serious were they taking this? It's a Migration Crisis Action Team. What kind of actions were being taken? What failed policies were being implemented? And those are the questions that, now that we at least know this existed, we have to fight for. We have to fight to get redactions taken away. We have to fight to find out the truth about this disaster that was perpetuated on the American people by the Biden-Harris administration.
We don't know yet who was getting these reports, but what we do know is that through 2022, they were getting them daily.
That's right. And many times in a FOIA drop of pages, you'll get the email addresses redacted because they're not wanting to just hand out this information to maybe bog down the email addresses or things of that nature. But typically the names aren't redacted. This is 2 full pages, normal 8.5 by 11 size sheets of paper with email recipients. The entire blocks are blocked out for 2 full pages. So we don't know who's receiving this. We don't know how high up it goes. But what we do know now is that when Mayorkas and others were saying things like, this is a challenge, not a crisis, they had daily reports coming from the Department of Homeland Security's Custom and Border Protection Migration Crisis Action Team.
How many times they refuse to use the term crisis, where the media was just, this is what I liked about the Trump administration. These were not like the issues you dealt with, right? There was no playing around on words. If something was a crisis, it'd be a crisis. If it was an issue you got to deal with, it's an issue you got to deal with. If you need to build the wall, you build the wall. You're not afraid of this terminology. But on the left, it's like you can't say illegal alien. You can't say illegal immigrant. Oh, those are not those terms.
Do you view what's happening right now on the border as a crisis?
I view it as a significant challenge.
There's no question that this is a challenging situation.
We were left with a very challenging situation. And, again, we were presented when we came in with some serious challenges. So.
Children presenting at our border who are fleeing violence, who are fleeing prosecution, who are fleeing terrible situations is not a crisis.
Do you believe that right now there's a crisis at the border?
I think that the answer is no.
Why won't you say the word crisis?
You know what? Because I have tremendous faith in the people of the Department of Homeland Security. And a crisis speaks to me of a withdrawal.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
At some point,
refusing to acknowledge the problems. And when you refuse to acknowledge the problems, then when you don't acknowledge problems, you can't fix the problems. So when you can't call it out for what it is, call it the crisis that you need to deal with. This is the problem on the left. This idea of we're just going to ignore this. We're going to blame it on climate. We're going to blame it on the Trump administration. And as we can play, later in the broadcast, when it's now Harris going up for running for president, we're going to start taking credit for building walls.
That's right. And that's why we need to point this out right now, because it is in the middle of an election season. And the leading candidate for the Democrats right now, Kamala Harris, has kind of flip-flopped on that. There was the Axios report that she plans on spending hundreds of millions of dollars on border walls. They're showcasing the border wall in ads trying to say that she's been tough on the border when this is her administration, when she was tasked with getting to the bottom of the root causes with the Northern Triangle. They wouldn't call it for what it is.
They're trying to pretend like Republicans are anti-immigrant when Republicans are anti-illegal immigrant. We want people to wait in line. Of course, we embrace immigration. And to be honest, if you go to a Trump rally, some of the most vocal people in the front row are first and second generation Americans. Immigrants who came to this country legally are celebrated and are voting for Donald Trump. And so the Democrats tried to blur this line between illegal immigration and immigration.
It can still be a crisis even if you have a humanitarian bone in your body that wants to help that. Even if you think we want to help children that are fleeing violence, you can still call it a crisis when it's out of control and you can't process the amount of people that are coming through, and you have to send them all over the country, leading to what we're seeing in Colorado, where Venezuelan gangs are taking over apartment complexes.
We all can see the Venezuelan gang taking over. It's not like people are making this up to be nasty. They're not making this up to be mean. But we know that this administration, the lies continue to be revealed. For years, they've claimed there's no crisis at our southern border. This 3-year-long lawsuit by the ACLJ reveals they knew all along that there is. They have an entire migration crisis team providing daily reports on just how bad the situation is. Thanks to you and your support, we're able to expose this egregious deception. Our FOIA lawsuit uncovered just already 420 pages of these daily reports, which were widely distributed within the agency. And there's more to come. We know we're going to get more. Sign and share our petition to end the Biden-Harris humanitarian crisis and protect our borders at aclj.org/sign. We have just 10 days until we're back in court on this case. Our team will be working day and night. Please help support us as we prepare for this fight.